Cheddar feeling chewy? Gouda got you down? If your cheese doesn't feel right, it might all come down to one big mistake. Few things are quite as unsettling as biting into a piece of cheese only to find that it no longer tastes like, well, cheese. The brie tastes somewhat oniony, the Gouda a little citrusy, and the Cheddar tastes like last night's leftovers. So what happened? Well, you probably made a crucial mistake, and it's all about the storage. Cheese, even if it looks quite solid, is relatively porous. When you pop it in the fridge without storing it properly, it works like a sponge, soaking up the wafting odors and flavors of its nearby food companions. That's why it's important not to store cheese alongside fragrant items like onions, garlic, and citrus, or herbs such as rosemary, sage, and basil. These foods contain strong scents that will seep into your cheese, drastically altering its flavor. That doesn't mean you should keep all your cheese stashed away in a drawer, though, or half-wrapped in its original plastic container and carelessly thrown in. To keep cheese smelling and tasting fresh, you might want to try some key cheese storage methods: wrapping it in wax paper, storing it in individual containers, or even freezing some types of cheese. For true cheese lovers, you could purchase a container designed especially to store cheese in ideal conditions. Plenty of folks have a designated cheese drawer that stores their assorted fromage, and that's a step in the right direction. However, sometimes the call is coming from inside the house, so to speak, meaning some popular cheese brands can be quite pungent. Gorgonzola, Stilton, Roquefort, and other stinky cheeses can leach their smell and flavor onto milder cheeses, so storing them separately is important. At the same time, you don't want to wrap cheese with plastic pressed right up against it because then your cheese will taste like plastic. It's a pickle, but there's a better way to do it.
I can ignore the cheese.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Cheese keeps best when it can breathe in a slightly humid environment, so wrapping it in cheesecloth or wax paper is ideal. After loosely wrapping your cheese, you might also want to try putting it in a second protective layer, such as a plastic food container with a hole punctured lid. A punctured plastic bag can accomplish this task as well. These tricks will help prolong your cheese's flavor without letting it leak onto other cheeses. If you only have plastic wrap at home, you can still use it, but be sure to swap out the wrap every few days. This will give the cheese a chance to breathe and prevent the moisture from building up, which would degrade the flavor and texture of the cheese. Label and date each cheese variety to prevent confusion and spoilage. As you might have guessed by now, storing cheese properly can become a little labor-intensive. While many cheeses last a long time, none of them last forever, even in ideal conditions. Even if there's no visible mold, cheese is made up of bacteria that will eventually die out. And over time, as this happens, the cheese goes bad. So if you'd like to extend the life of your cheese and don't want to eat it immediately, you could always put some varieties in the freezer. This is a great solution if you have a ton of leftovers from a cheese board, or if you bought your cheeses in bulk. The best cheese candidates for freezing are semi-hard, rindless, low-moisture cheeses, such as cheddar, hard mozzarella, and provolone. That's because harder cheeses have lower moisture content and thus do not freeze well. Freezing these cheese varieties will keep them tasting good, but it should be noted that the texture will be inevitably altered as a result of the ice crystals that form in the water and fat molecules. You shouldn't notice too much difference in flavor upon thawing, but the cheese may have a crumblier, grainy mouthfeel. Also, melting previously frozen cheese will produce less stretchy, gooey results. Of course, if you're really serious about investing in cheese storage to extend its life, you could consider using a vacuum sealer for all your opened cheeses, or even acquiring a mini cheese cave for the home. Now that's dedication!